Hello, my undead, and welcome to another JJK video. Nope, I have not coped with it ending yet. I am actually still in mourning right now. There are candles lit in my room. But today we are going to be talking about Kenjaku, a very controversial character, not only because of his very sudden ending, but also because of his one-use domain and three techniques which are under heavy debate. Since the character is also my second favorite in the series, right after my beautiful beloved baby Sukuna, I figured I'd make a video explaining the abilities, history, and ending of our beloved Kenny Kenjaku. Also, stay tuned for the end for a theoretical fight I make to maybe have the ending have a softer blow on the community of JJK. Most believe Kenjaku is older than Sukuna, but this is never stated. The reason people believe this is because to make an incarnated sorcerer, Kenjaku has to make a binding vow with that person. And Kenjaku had made one with Druve to get him into the Culling Games. If I'm pronouncing that wrong, I apologize. If you didn't know, Druve is a real life historical figure who lived 2,000 years ago, which is double the age of Sukuna. However, I believe this to be false because the first time we see Druve, it's stated to be his second incarnation. So he could have somehow known how to incarnate himself, done that the first time, and that first time he incarnated, whenever Kenjaku would be around, which is at least 1,000 years ago as far as we know, he could have made the binding vow with him then. So there is no confirmation that Kenjaku is that old. During the manga's run, we see, rest in peace, we see Kenjaku in 4 main bodies, none of which are his own. We have no idea what Kenjaku's body looks like, besides one theory that the person on the left, I think it is Kenjaku when Sukuna is talking about taking a different path. Either way, the main bodies are Noritoshi Kamo, the older one, not the guy who always has his eyes shut, Kaori Itadori, and Suguru Geto. In a mysterious fourth body we see while he talks to Kashimo. I don't believe we know which body that is, but comment down below if I'm wrong and feel free to correct me. While using Kamo, he made 9 cursed wombs, which were failed attempts at evolving sorcery, and I think it was hinted that they were potentially a vessel for Sukuna. And then while in Kaori's body, we see Yuji's grandfather, Wasuke, warn his son about Kaori, and we also know Kenjaku was the one who gave birth to Yuji. Kenjaku chose Wasuke's son because Wasuke himself is the reincarnation of Sukuna's twin, whom he ate in the womb. I know that's confusing, and I know when the chapter came out, it was mistranslated that Yuji was Sukuna's brother, and then it was mistranslated that his dad was Sukuna's brother, and then I'm pretty sure Gege confirmed that it was actually Yuji's grandpa that was the reincarnation of Sukuna's brother. So, blame leakers. Do not blame Gege. Both the incarnation of Sukuna's twin soul and Kenjaku being Kenjaku ensured Yuji's strength as a vessel. And then Geto's body is the Kenjaku we all know and love. In this body, we see him enact most of his plans. We also see him die in this body. And we see him be the main foil to our characters. Kenjaku stole this body after Yuta absolutely demolished it with a love beam at the end of JJK 0. And Gojo left it because he had a little boy crush. Kenjaku's motivation is not a complex one, but somehow misunderstood by our beloved, highly intelligent TikTok readers. Kenny does not want to change the world for some greater purpose. He is not Suguru Geto. Kenny simply wants to entertain himself. He wants to push the boundaries of Jujutsu because it could be fun. He wants to give everyone curse energy because it could be fun. He wants to merge everyone with Tengen and make some unstoppable, disgusting monster because there's a chance it could be fun. He is simply here to entertain himself. He wants to revive the golden age of sorcery because that's when Jujutsu was most entertaining. He says this to Sukuna. And when you compare that to Sukuna's goal, which, yes, Sukuna wants to entertain himself, but he is also much more philosophical with the way he lives, with the way he teaches people about being the strongest, and how he sees killing them as an act of kindness. They're two entirely separate, and they're not even opposites, really. It's just Sukuna is a bit more philosophical, when Kenjaku is simply a little kid with a crayon, as he describes. During his battle with Yuki Tsukumo, we see her state that Kenjaku can most likely only hold about 4 curse techniques, which I will be shortening to CT for the sake of my tongue, without frying his brain. Only 3 of these were shown, so I will be assuming he can only hold 3. If you're wondering why he can only hold 3 and Yuta can have, I don't even know how many he has, 5 plus definitely. This is because Yuta has an external storage, which is Rika. So think of it as him using Rika as like a sort of box that holds a bunch of techniques. Kenjaku, as far as we know, holds all the techniques on his brain. So he has no external storage, most likely. The main ability he was born with is to hop into other people's bodies with his brain. And the other 2 techniques at the time that we saw were Cursed Spirit Manipulation, which I will be shortening to CSM, from Suguru Geto, and Anti-Gravity from Kaori Itadori. I'm going to be covering Anti-Gravity first because it's extremely simple and straightforward. The first time we see this technique is in Chapter 204, where Choso uses Esso's technique to transport exploding blood around Kenjaku. Kenny knew this would damage him, so he used the reversal of anti-gravity, which is obviously just normal gravity, and slammed the blood into the ground, stopping it from exploding around him. We then see him use normal gravity on himself, normal gravity being anti-gravity, the normal technique, to counteract the black hole, basically Yuki's slip and slide move. He does this by making his body a domain, which, as we all know, domains amplify everything you do, physical technique, curse technique, all that. And this outputted an immense pressure of anti-gravity on the black hole. So basically, he made his own body a domain so that there was no limiter on how much he could use anti-gravity. So his body was just exuding anti-gravity at rates that he could not do without making his body a domain. This basically counteracted the force of the black hole, which I believe led it to a stalemate, stopping Kenjaku from dying from the black hole. Because at the end of the day, the black hole, as far as we know, is just gravity. It's just pulling you in and spaghettifying you. So when he is applying immense amounts of anti-gravity, he's basically in a tug-of-war fight, kind of like domains, with the black hole. So he's pushing against its gravity with his own anti-gravity. I don't believe Kenjaku blew up the black hole. As Kenjaku says, it's only because of Tengen and Yuki's will that the black hole didn't swallow the entire Earth. So I believe Yuki purposefully held it back, and then Tengen must have dispelled it with his barriers. And then Kenny only stayed alive because he stalled out with the anti-gravity. CSM is as simple as its name. It's just the ability to manipulate cursed spirits. The user can absorb the cursed spirit whenever it is weakened or is already an extremely weak curse. Kenny or Geto can then summon the absorbed curse whenever he wants, and it's under his control. CSM also has a maximum, which for some reason is extremely rare in JJK. I think it's even rarer than domains. This involves using curses as a sort of fuel, and it compresses them into this small spiral, which is what Uzumaki means, and then launches it all forward and causes massive damage. The first time we see this is against Yuta. However, Kenny discovered an even better way of using Uzumaki, 2 better ways actually, in which he sacrifices the curse so he can use their curse technique a single time. It has to be higher than semi-grade 1, by the way. The sacrifice of this curse buffs the output of the CT massively, and is what Kenjaku did to Mahito to start the Culling Games. Kenny also used Uzumaki by making a super mini version, which then he used to attack Yuki, which caught her off guard and single-handedly won him the fight. Kenny is extremely intelligent and has acquired many rare abilities over his 1,000 years of living, including but not limited to RCT, And the rarest ability he has, an open domain, which only him and Sukuna have. Technique reversal, which is also pretty rare. A maximum technique, which is even more rare. And then the ability to hold multiple techniques through barriers and binding vows, which is impressive because even Yuta needs an external storage. And when he does take Kenjaku's technique, when he uses it and he goes into burnout, he collapses. Kenjaku doesn't. That's how talented he is with barriers, which he is only bested by Tengen in the barrier category. And by far, the most impressive ability he has is to get Sukuna to do whatever the hell he wants. This is through a binding vow in which Kenjaku showed Sukuna how to become a cursed object, or he just did it for him, and then that's how Sukuna learned. Whatever, it doesn't really matter. Some people believe that Kenjaku's domain, Womb Profusion, top 3 domains by the way, is Geto's domain, and Kenjaku simply fully realized it. The evidence for this would be that when Kenjaku takes over a body, he quite literally becomes that person. Gojo said even the Six Eyes were telling him it was Geto when it was actually Kenjaku. Gojo was even able to get Geto to fight back by speaking to Kenjaku in Shibuya. I do not personally believe this argument because a domain about wombs does not really fit Geto's character nearly as much as it fits Kenjaku's. Kenjaku created 9 cursed wombs and was a mother to the series' main character. Not to mention, even the visuals for the domain have nothing to do with Geto and everything to do with Kenjaku. Even more evidence against this is the sure hit for Womb Profusion, in which Kenjaku swings his hand and a giant force of pressure strikes wherever the hand is swung. This does not fit with CSM in virtually any way, besides the fact that Maki looks similarly injured in JJK0, which I personally believe is quite the stretch because domains weren't even a thing then. My interpretation of the domain, personally, is that Kenjaku can use whatever technique he currently has in his brain and imbue it into his domain, which always looks the same. This would explain the sure hit's gravity-like effect, and give him a reason to have a damaging sure hit, even though his main curse technique is a body-hopping one, and not necessarily one when imbued into a domain would cause damage. The one thing that kind of messes with my interpretation is the fact that the sure hit would have to be the reversal of anti-gravity, and we've never seen a reversal, as far as I know, be imbued into a domain, and we have no idea if it's even possible. My theory inside a theory is that because Kenjaku can use whatever CT he currently has, if my theory is correct, that he could maybe even choose a CT within a CT. That might make 0 sense, but give me a second. We all know cursed spirits can have cursed techniques. That was like the entire plot for the first few arcs, was fighting curses with cursed techniques. This is also how Kenny starts the culling games. So what if Kenjaku, like when he started the culling games, sacrificed a cursed spirit to use their CT and imbue it into the domain? I know, genius. However, there's no way of proving this because he only ever uses his domain once. For some reason. Gege, why did you do this to me? As far as Yuta using Gojo's domain, I believe that does not outright prove it isn't Kenjaku's domain. Kenny has ways of getting around restrictions with barriers as far as techniques and burnout. He brought a CT from a previous body, which Yuta was completely unable to do. So why couldn't he bring his own domain with his brain? Wouldn't Kenjaku choose to bring his own domain instead of having to figure out a new one each time he body hops? It's all up to interpretation. So if this is what wins you over for it being Geto's domain, I completely understand. But I feel the design, the sure hit, neither, or the name, none of it matches with Geto's character whatsoever. And we've seen Kenjaku be able to carry over stuff from body to body that he shouldn't be able to. So is it completely impossible for it to be Kenjaku's domain? No, not at all. We only see Kenjaku participate in 2 serious fights, one with Yuki and one with Takaba. Unfortunately for Kenny, neither of the fights provides decent scaling to show where he might end up on a top 10 list. The same goes for Yuki, since she only ever fought Kenny. His first serious fight is against Yuki in the death painting Choso. This death painting defeated Yuji, who is considered to be grade 1 sorcerer level, and had strength equal to Nanami. While the special grade was assumed to have a domain, it has to have the ability to destroy a nation according to Kenjaku, and has a technique that could destroy the planet, albeit was extremely held back at the time. His second fight doesn't help us figure out his strength much at all, so I'm going to spare the details for now. And as far as statements for Kenjaku, there's a few. One being the hand-to-hand statement I mentioned earlier, where it is stated Kenjaku is the most skilled at hand-to-hand combat in the entire series, even outperforming Gojo. I should mention, only outperforms Gojo if Gojo had no cursed energy and no cursed technique. This does make sense because Kenjaku was able to survive Yuki laying into him with her CT and Choso providing backup with his CT, all while he was in technique burnout. Another statement by Gege is the following. Question. Would he, Kenjaku, be able to use the CSM technique to control Jogo or Hanami, or even Mahito if he really wanted to? Answer. If they were one-on-one fights, but I think he'd have a really hard time with Jogo and Mahito. You guys might be thinking, Chewy, Kenjaku is washed. He's a bum. If he's struggling with these guys, how is he even top 10? Well, I'd tell you that the statement isn't fully translated correctly. Now hear me out. Hear me out. It's not Cope. It's not Cope. It's not Cope. Lightning, a very reputable Twitter translator, even worked with Viz Translations for a little bit, came out and said that the community may be taking it the wrong way. They start by saying Gege states this is in the context of controlling them, not just fighting them. People who can actually read would know that. It's sad that that even has to be stated. And then says the word that was mistranslated as having a hard time more so means bothersome or annoying. Not really fight to the death, struggling. More like it'd be a bit annoying to fight those guys, which makes sense because they're special grade curses. They both have domains. Mahito can like two-shot anybody, so it makes sense. Everyone in this community should know that translations have absolutely butchered the reading comprehension of this series. There are people who think Sukuna lost in the Heian era. There are people who think Gojo can't use black flashes. There are people who think Sukuna is a cursed spirit. But don't let this specific statement fool you. Kenjaku is undoubtedly top 3. That'll be all for this video, my undead. I do plan on releasing a second part where I go more in depth about Kenjaku's ending, how I believe it's not as bad as people think, and I'm going to be making a hypothetical fight between Kenjaku and 2 other people that hopefully makes the ending a bit better in most people's eyes. Please sub and like if you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you next time, my undead.